I raised him for 15 years as his father. Then he invited his real dad to graduation. So I stayed silent, walked away, and let the truth speak for me. He was wiping barbecue sauce off Tyler's chin when the boy was 5. Sat through 12 school concerts, each more tone-deaf than the last. Learned the difference between Minecraft and Fortnite just to keep up. He was there when Tyler's appendix decided to explode on a Tuesday night, and when a classmate shattered his confidence by calling his science project cute. Gerald was the emergency contact, the shoulder, the ride, the guy behind the camera, and the wallet, and the whole damn curtain. For 15 years, he was dad. So when Tyler looked across the dinner table that evening mid-bite, chewing like nothing monumental was coming, and said, "I am inviting my real dad to my graduation," Gerald thought he misheard. Tyler kept going unfazed. "You can just come as a guest or whatever." Gerald blinked. The air in the room turned syrup thick. Denise froze, fork hovering between plate and mouth. Her eyes darted between them, silently screaming, "Please do not." He put his knife down, wiped his hands on the napkin. "You are serious?" Tyler shrugged. "He is my real father. I mean, biologically, it just seems right." A heartbeat passed, then another. Gerald smiled, or something close to it. "Got it. No plate thrown, no voice raised, just that quiet. Got it." Slicing cleaner than any argument would have. And if you have made it this far, hey, I know 98% of you are watching without hitting that subscribe button. We are trying to hit our first 10,000 subs ever. It means the world to our little team and keeps the stories coming hotter than Tyler's betrayal. So, if you want to help us keep roasting like this, you know what to do. Thanks. Back at the table, Denise was still staring. She opened her mouth once, then shut it. She reached for his hand under the table, but he was already standing, collecting plates like it was just another Tuesday. Tyler did not notice. He was too busy checking his phone, probably waiting for a text from real dad. In the garage later, Gerald stood by the old fridge, the one with Tyler's preschool finger paintings still magnet pinned under fading best dad badges. He stared at them longer than he meant to. One drawing, a crude stick figure family, had Gerald in the middle, comically tall with Super Dad written in crayon over his head. He peeled it down gently, folded it twice, and slipped it into his jacket pocket. He did not sleep that night. Not from heartbreak, but from recalibration. Something had shifted. Not broken, not snapped. Just shifted, like tectonic plates moving silently underfoot, rearranging the landscape with no warning. In the hallway, Denise whispered, "He does not mean it." Gerald looked at her, jaw tight. "It does not matter." He said it. Denise started to cry, but he did not reach for her. Instead, he turned to the small safe at the back of the closet, the one he had not opened since Tyler turned 18. As the click of the lock echoed into the silence, so did something else. Finality. The hinges creaked like they had not been touched in years, which they had not. Gerald sat on the floor of the walk-in closet, cross-legged in sweatpants, surrounded by shoeboxes full of receipts, winter boots no one wore, and a decade's worth of dust. The safe was not big. It was a nondescript gray block tucked behind Denise's luggage when he bought the same month he legally became Tyler's father. His fingers hesitated over the combination lock. He remembered it by muscle memory more than thought. 0503. Tyler's birthday. Fitting, ironic, almost theatrical. Click. The door swung open. First came the paperwork. The adoption certificate with his signature next to Denise's. Both lines a little shaky from the courtroom nerves that day. Tyler had been 3. He barely understood what it meant. But Gerald remembered how tightly the boy had clung to his neck that afternoon, too young to articulate why the judge had called him dad, but somehow understanding that everything was about to feel more permanent. Next, the bank ledgers. Years of tuition payments, pediatric bills, sports fees, the orthodontist from hell, all paid without a second thought. Gerald flipped through them slowly, each one a quiet reminder of sacrifice that Tyler never asked for, but never questioned either. That was the job. You give. You give quietly. Then the letter. God, the letter. It was dated 6 years ago. Tyler had just turned 12 and started to ask those fidgety preteen questions about his real dad. Gerald had sat down that night to write him something, anything that would prepare him for the day he might go looking. He never gave it to him. Denise had convinced him to wait. Let him be a kid, she said. Do not plant seeds he is not ready to grow. But now that letter was the root. He unfolded it, read the first few lines. His own handwriting was oddly neat for once. You are going to hear stories, and some of them will sound better than the truth, but remember I stayed. Gerald exhaled slowly and folded it back up, slid it into the envelope first, like a base layer of insulation. Then he turned to the file cabinet in the garage, opened the bottom drawer, pulled out the newest document, a copy of the revised trust. Tyler's name was still on the header, still listed as a potential heir. Potential because 2 days ago Gerald had met with his attorney and added a clause in the event of relinquishment of filial relationship. He did not finish reading it. He knew what it said. He added the page last, tucked behind everything else like a trapdoor at the end of a tunnel. The envelope was thick now. He ran his thumb along its edge, then sealed it with tape, wrote nothing on the front, no name, no title. Just left it blank like a silence waiting to be broken. Gerald did not cry. He had not cried in years, not even when his father died. But he sat there a long time, staring at that envelope like it was a live grenade. Outside, the porch light buzzed, flickering from a dying bulb he had been meaning to change. A small thing, like everything else, like respect, like loyalty. The house was quiet. Denise had fallen asleep hours ago, curled on her side of the bed like nothing tectonic had just cracked between walls they built together. Gerald stayed on the floor. He did not need sleep. He needed clarity. The next morning, he placed the envelope into the inner lining of his suit jacket, not the outer pocket. That was for show. This one was for weight, for presence, for permanence. Whatever Tyler thought he knew about fathers was about to change. Steve rolled up in a leased black Dodge Charger with an exhaust louder than his intentions. The car idled outside the house for a full minute before he even got out like it needed to announce him first. When the door finally opened, out stepped a man 15 years late with a cocky grin and a cheap leather jacket creased from years of hangers, not wear. Gerald watched from the garage, arms crossed. Tyler stood at the front door, already bounding down the steps like a kid meeting Santa Claus. He had not moved that fast since his first varsity game. "Steve," Tyler said, all teeth and energy. "Look at you," Steve barked, gripping Tyler in a hug. One arm too short and one pat too hard. "Man, you are taller than I expected. Damn near look like me." Gerald squinted at that line. Denise stepped out onto the porch behind them, a polite smile frozen on her lips like someone trying to greet a rattlesnake without showing fear. "Hi, Steve," she said carefully. "Hey there, D." He winked. He winked like it was still 2002, and she had not raised a teenager without him. Steve sniffed the air dramatically. "Man, I missed this place. Same mailbox." He thumped it like it was a doghouse. Gerald did not move. He did not speak. He just watched, silent, steady. Inside, Steve spun tales about the good old days, like he had lived through them, instead of skipped them entirely. Claimed he was lining up some contracts in Florida. Talked about the time he almost toured with some band no one had heard of. Even pulled out his phone to show a photo of a boat he allegedly owned. Gerald recognized the stock image, saw it on a Facebook ad once for a vacation sweepstakes over dinner, which Steve invited himself to. He pitched the idea of taking Tyler out after graduation. "We will hit the bars, toast to your future, celebrate like real men." Gerald did not blink, did not twitch, just quietly cut his steak and chewed. "That cool with you, G-Man?" Steve added, flashing that salesman smile. Denise looked down at her plate. Gerald set his knife down with deliberate calm. "Sure, why not? It is his night." Tyler, beaming, lifted his glass of soda like it was champagne. "It is going to be epic." The word epic hung in the air like smoke from a match. That night, Gerald did not go home right away. He drove out to the edge of town, took the long way past the old mill, past the diner where he once waited 3 hours when Denise went into labor, past the school where Tyler learned to tie his shoes. Then he pulled into a gravel lot beside the lake. The rental office had one cabin left, far enough from town, close enough to feel like exile. One queen bed, a kitchenette, and silence, just how Gerald liked it. He booked it one way, no checkout date, no plan. As he signed the paperwork, the receptionist glanced up. "Vacation?" Gerald smiled faintly, something like that. Back at the house, Steve had already fallen asleep on the couch, shoes on, belt unbuckled, snoring through his mouth. Tyler scrolled through his phone beside him, laughing at something they had posted on Instagram. Denise sat in the kitchen, staring into a glass of wine, her expression unreadable. Gerald did not go inside. He stood in the driveway watching the scene through the window. Then he turned, got in his car, and drove to the cabin. Because sometimes silence was not surrender. It was the calm before the calculation. It started with a perfectly civil email from the school. "Please confirm your family's preferred seating arrangements for the graduation stage and reception." Denise read it out loud over breakfast, her voice neutral, carefully void of emotion like she was diffusing a bomb. Tyler did not even pause his spoon. Yeah, I already told them. Steve is going to sit beside me on stage. The cereal crackled in Gerald's mouth. Denise set the phone down a little too fast. You what? Tyler looked up casual. Yeah, I mean, he is my real dad, right? Makes sense. The word real again slithering into the room like a recurring curse. Denise's face tightened. Tyler, your father Gerald raised you. Tyler cut her off. I know, Mom, but it is just symbolic. I want Steve there. He missed everything else, so this one, it is important. Gerald put his fork down, wiped his mouth, took a sip of coffee that had long gone cold. I will stay in the back, he said flatly. Denise turned to him, panic in her eyes. Gerald, please, this is not right. Do not let it go like this. Do not let him do this. He stood, took his mug to the sink. I will not make a scene, he said without turning around. I will just be there. Tyler, still chewing, did not look up. Later that night, Denise found him in the garage. He was at the workbench, wiping down a wrench that had not been used in months. The envelope sat beside him, thick now, its edges slightly curled from being handled. You are really going to just sit in the back like some guest? He did not look at her. That is what I am now. You are his father. He turned, then looked at her with something that was not anger but was not softness either. No, I was. She flinched. Gerald picked up the envelope, ran his thumb along the seal, then pressed it closed with finality. Slowly, deliberately, he slid it into the inside pocket of his blazer, the one he only wore for weddings and funerals. He closed the button over it. Denise stepped closer. What is in it? He looked at her finally. Everything you never asked about. Silence stretched between them like a drawbridge slowly lifting. You are not going to fight for this, she whispered. He almost laughed. Almost. I already did. Every single day for 15 years. The next morning, Tyler left early for rehearsal. Steve did not show again. Gerald stood at the closet mirror, adjusting his collar, tucked a pin into his breast pocket, checked his jacket for the envelope still there. He looked at his reflection, at the lines on his face that were not there when he first taught a 3-year-old how to brush his teeth. He did not see a broken man, he saw a prepared one. Outside, the lawn was freshly cut. The banner in the driveway read, Congratulations, Tyler, in big, cheerful letters. Inside, a storm had already passed. And Gerald, he was not trying to stop the flood anymore. He was the dam quietly cracking. The rehearsal dinner was held at a chain steakhouse on the edge of town, chosen by Denise for its neutral territory and limited emotional landmines. It was supposed to be small, just the family, Tyler's closest friends, a few teachers, and the principal who had politely agreed to make a toast. The table was set for 8. 7 showed up. Steve naturally was the missing one. Tyler kept checking his phone between bites of mashed potatoes, smiling awkwardly every time the waitress refilled his water. He is probably just stuck in traffic, he said around the 3rd time someone looked at the empty chair beside him. He has got a buddy with a car dealership south of here, might be helping out. Denise gave Gerald a look, one of those please do not say anything looks. He did not. He sipped his soda, nodded politely when the principal raised his glass, and when the photo started, those cheap printed ones with Tyler from kindergarten to senior year. He clapped in the right places, smiled in the right places, did not flinch when someone said, Wow, you look just like your dad, and pointed to Steve's empty seat. When dessert came, Tyler leaned back, scrolling through his phone under the table. He texted, says he got caught up, but he will definitely be there tomorrow, promised. Gerald nodded, good. And that was it. He left early, quietly, drove back to the cabin with the windows down, letting the cool air slap against his face. The gravel crackled under his tires like bones breaking, small, dry, inevitable. The lake was still, not peaceful, still like it was watching him. He sat on the porch in a wooden chair that wobbled just slightly, but not enough to matter. The moon hung low, dull and yellow like a bruise, healing slowly. No music, no alcohol, just Gerald, a thermos of lukewarm coffee, and that thick envelope resting beside him on a chipped side table. He picked it up, turned it over in his hands like it was a newborn or a weapon. After a while, he opened it again, pulled out each page, smoothed them gently, one at a time. Like laying out years of invisible labor for inspection, the adoption certificate, the tuition receipts, the handwritten letter, the trust clause. It felt almost complete, almost. So he went inside, found the motel stationery paper so thin the ink nearly bled through, and wrote something in the same unhurried hand he used when balancing checkbooks. This is everything you never asked about, but it was always yours. I hope someday you understand what it cost." He did not sign it. He folded it once neatly, slipped it in at the top. Then he resealed the envelope and leaned back in the chair, hands crossed over his chest. No sadness, no regret, just quiet understanding. Tyler had made a choice. So had Gerald. The only difference was Gerald's came with documentation. The auditorium smelled like a mix of fresh carnations, hairspray, and anticipation. People were packed elbow to elbow, camera flashes popping like popcorn. Parents waved wildly from the seats like stranded castaways trying to flag down a rescue plane. Names were being read one after another in sharp cadence, each followed by a polite roar of applause. Denise sat 4 rows from the stage, perched on the edge of her seat, knuckles white on the armrests. Her carefully done makeup could not quite hide the tension climbing up her neck like ivy. Every 2 minutes, she looked toward the side entrance. No, Steve Tyler was in the front row with the rest of the graduates, his maroon cap already tilted slightly to one side. He was trying to look calm, legs stretched out, arms crossed, but every 10 seconds he peeked at his phone, swiping the lock screen to refresh a notification that was not coming. Gerald was in the very last row, alone. The only man in a blazer, while most dads had gone full summer casual. His jacket was buttoned, the envelope pressed snug against his ribs like a second spine. He did not wave when Tyler glanced his way, did not smile, just sat upright, unmoved. The name reading droned on. Denise leaned toward the principal at one point, whispering something with a forced grin. A teacher patted her on the arm, sympathy and formal wear. Tyler kept checking the side door. Still no Steve, still no real dad. Finally, the announcer cleared her throat and called, "Tyler Richards." The auditorium erupted. Cheers, claps, camera shutters. Tyler stood, straightened his gown, cast one last desperate glance at the door empty, and then he walked across the stage, smile plastered on like a borrowed face. Someone shouted his name from the back, one of his buddies from the basketball team. Gerald did not move until Tyler reached center stage, shook the principal's hand, and posed for the photo with his diploma. Then, with the silence of a decision already made, Gerald rose from the last row. He moved through the aisle slowly, each step unhurried, not theatrical, not angry, just deliberate. The envelope inside his jacket thudded softly against his chest with every stride. Parents turned to look. Teachers paused mid-applause. Denise twisted around in her chair, eyes wide. Gerald did not break stride. He walked toward the front, toward the boy who had once sat on his shoulders during fireworks. The boy who scraped his knees on the driveway and cried for Dad, not for Steve. Toward the boy who had no idea his version of the truth was about to cave in on itself. Tyler stepped off the stage with his diploma in hand, still smiling, still scanning the crowd with hope slowly leaking out of him like air from a slashed tire. No Steve. Not even a text. Just the hollow weight of his name being cheered by people who did not know half the story and who, in about 30 seconds, would not know what to make of the other half. He did not see Gerald until he was right there, not beside him, not blocking him, just there like a memory made flesh. Gerald did not say congratulations, did not pat his back or ruffle his gown. He did not even touch him. He simply reached inside his blazer and pulled out the envelope, thick, sealed, silent. The kind of object that feels heavier than it should, like it is carrying more than paper. He held it out. Tyler blinked. "What is this?" Gerald leaned in close enough for only him to hear and whispered, "Read this when you are ready, or do not." No anger, no emotion, just choice. Then he turned and walked away. Not fast, not slow, just steady, like he had already rehearsed it. Tyler stood frozen mid-step, the envelope now in his hand, the diploma tucked awkwardly under his arm like an afterthought. A few people clapped out of habit, unsure what they had just seen. A woman in the front row tilted her head. 2 students in the wings whispered behind cupped hands. The cameras kept flashing, and suddenly Tyler was not sure what they were capturing anymore. Denise was halfway out of her seat. Confusion etched across her face. One of Tyler's classmates nudged him. "Dude, what was that?" But Tyler did not answer. His fingers gripped the envelope like it might detonate. The ceremony moved on without him. Another name was called, another cheer, but he did not move. For the first time that day, he did not check his phone. Did not scan for Steve. He just stared at the envelope, pulse thumping in his ears, and everything around him started to sound distant, like the moment before a crash. Backstage smelled like hairspray, floor wax, and sweat. Everyone clapping each other on the back, laughing too loud, hugging like the world had just opened for them. But Tyler was not part of that celebration. He slipped behind a row of folding chairs, ducking past the assistant principal and the AV kid wheeling a speaker. His hands shook as he tore into the envelope like it might be full of cash or fire or both. The first thing he saw was his own name, full and formal. Tyler James Richards. Legal paperwork stamped and notarized, adoption decree dated 15 years ago. His heart skipped. Steve's name was not on it. Father Gerald Wayne Richards. He blinked. Read it again. Below that, page after page. Pediatric care receipts, orthodontic bills, school fees, summer camp deposits. All in Gerald's name. No reimbursements. No co-signers. One after another. 15 years of quiet deposits into a life that Tyler had never bothered to ask about. His knees buckled slightly. He crouched against the wall. The next page was a printout of a trust document, bold and legal in tone, highlighted. Clause 7C, revocation of beneficiary rights. Dated, signed, witnessed. 2 days ago, a sticky note was attached to the corner in Gerald's handwriting. It was never about money. It was about memory. You traded both. Tyler's chest tightened. Then came the photos. Not selfies, not posed, just snapshots Gerald had clearly taken alone over the years. Tyler blowing out candles at age 7. No Steve. Tyler in his Halloween costume dressed as a knight. No Steve. Tyler holding a trophy at his first track meet No Steve. And then one brutal picture, Denise and Tyler at age 10, opening Christmas presents. In the corner, just barely visible, was Steve's name on a gift tag that Gerald had clearly written by hand and delivered while Steve never showed. And finally, the last page, just one line centered, no date, no header. You chose him, so I removed myself. The words hit harder than anything Tyler had prepared for. He could not breathe, could not stand. The noise of the crowd outside faded into a buzz, replaced by the pressure inside his chest, like everything he thought he understood had collapsed inward. He had wanted a headline, a name, a title. Real Dad, something to look cool in photos. Instead, he burned the only man who ever stood in the fire with him. He clutched the envelope like a life raft that came too late. Steve had not shown again, but Gerald had, until now. Tyler burst through the auditorium's back doors like something was on fire. Suit, half-buttoned, tassel bouncing, diploma nearly forgotten in one hand, the envelope clutched like a wound in the other. The parking lot was full of families hugging under helium balloons, posing for iPhone photos, laughing about missed names and awkward speeches. He scanned the rows. Gerald's truck was gone. "Mom!" he shouted, spinning in place. Denise was standing by the curb, surrounded by 2 aunts and a neighbor she barely liked. Her mascara had given up halfway down her cheek. Her expression collapsed the moment she saw him. "He is gone," she whispered. "You let him leave?" Tyler snapped. "What was I supposed to do? Tie him to the bleachers?" She fired back, her voice cracking. "You made your choice, Tyler." And he honored it. The aunts turned away, suddenly very interested in their clutched purses. Guests nearby lowered their voices. Someone whispered, "Was not that his stepdad?" Tyler's phone buzzed. Finally, he yanked it up. It was a spam email. No texts, no calls, nothing from Steve. Of course not. He pulled up Gerald's number, hit dial, 1 ring, 2 straight to voicemail. He stared at the screen like he could will it to change, like if he wanted it badly enough. Maybe time would rewind and the envelope would vanish, and Gerald would be standing right there, arms crossed, grumbling about the traffic. He typed the message anyway. "I did not know. I swear I did not know. Please come back. You are my real dad." He had sent it, then watched it sit there with that smug little delivered checkmark like a doorman who opens the lobby but will not let you in. Minutes passed, then more. No reply. The crowd thinned. Cars rolled out in slow processions of honking horns and trailing streamers. Denise sat down on the curb crying in hard, wet gasps, alone in her own spiral of guilt. But Tyler did not comfort her. He just stood there staring at nothing. The diploma was bent now, useless cheap paper in a broken frame of assumptions. Steve had never come, but Gerald had. Gerald had come to every spelling bee, every Sunday night stomach flu, every "Dad, can you pick me up early?" Gerald had come and stayed and paid and listened and showed up again and again until now. And now he was gone, not absent, not missing, gone. Because Tyler had walked him to the exit with both eyes open and a grin on his face. He did not just lose a father today. He chose to lose the only one he ever had, and that could not be texted away. It took him weeks to open the envelope again. It sat on his desk like a warning label, like something radioactive sealed in manila paper. He could not look at it without his throat tightening, could not touch it without his fingers going cold. He told himself he had already read everything inside, that the damage was done, that what Gerald wanted him to know had already been said in ink, in silence, in absence. But on a rainy Thursday evening, 3 weeks after graduation, the envelope caught the corner of his sleeve and hit the floor. It slid open slightly on impact. A page peeked out, one he had not seen before, folded in thirds. Old paper yellowed at the edges. His heart jumped before his fingers did. He sat on his bed and unfolded it slowly, like opening a wound that had scabbed but never healed. It was not typed, it was not dated. The handwriting was careful except near the end where the lines had started to tremble. I do not need thanks. I do not need a Father's Day card or a mention in your bio. I just need you to remember who stood by you when no one else did, who filled out the emergency contact forms, who held the bike seat until you could balance, who did not leave even when he had every reason to. Tyler's vision blurred. You may forget everything I paid, but I hope you do not forget everything I stayed. At the bottom, in faint shaky ink, goodbye son, live well. That last line did not slap. It did not scream. It settled like dust, final and undisturbed. Tyler sat alone on the rusting bleachers behind the high school that night, put up against the drizzle. The letter in one hand and his future in the other. And for the first time in his life, no one to call. No applause, no audience, just a boy who thought he was a man until a real one walked away. He wept there quietly, not because Gerald was angry, but because Gerald had finished loving him and left nothing behind, but proof that it was love. Not revenge, not punishment, just closure. And now there was nothing to fix, no way back, no thread to pull. It was not an explosion, it was a razor. And it was final.